non-dual awareness and critical action. So it's drawing balance with the Trika Śaivism as the foundation for the company's leadership. So basically, I would like to explore together a question which is highly relevant to the leadership practice nowadays. What is ethical leadership is not primarily about better rules, but about deeper awareness. That's the question we are going to investigate today. And for investigating this question in a small talk, I will draw parallels with the Trika Śaivism, Kashmir Śaivism, in which I have initiated and propose a solution, a sustainable, compassionate leadership. So let's come. So I'm just giving you the outlines. Outlines exploring the Trika as a foundation for the company leadership. So my experience across the universities, various universities, we see increasing complexity, stakeholder pressure, burnout, and trust deficits. So traditional compliance-based governance, whether it is in present governance or the corporate governance, the compliance-based governance is necessary, what I feel, but there is something missing that is not sufficient. So what is missing that I'm going to investigate and coming up with a solution. Because the leaders today are being asked by the management and the government to operate with a moral clarity in a situation where rules alone cannot guide them. So let's start. That's the outline. So starting with the leadership, we want instrumental rationality. So I will definitely touch on some Trika concept. So very briefly, I don't know, it's very technical. So leadership research, basically, whether it is servant leadership, or it is mindful leadership, or purpose-driven leadership, any model that is emphasizing on empathy, on presence and service. However, in most of the leadership models, what we have in most of the frameworks, that is remain skill-based. And then the question becomes, the question asked by something missing, that what ground these capacities in a stable way under the pressure, so how a leader behaves. So just touching upon very briefly, so Trika Śaivism is a non-dual Kashmir Śaivism philosophy. That is that offers a non-dual model for awareness in which reality is understood in an interconnected consciousness. And for leadership, I'm now crossing to the leadership theory. So leadership then translated into a shift from isolated decision maker to a integrated participants within a system. So very briefly I'm going to some basic concept, very briefly, the Śiva-consciousness from our Parampara. So Śiva-consciousness, that's like a Western ontology I'm talking. So the idea here is the reflective awareness suggests that consciousness is inherently relational. And in leadership terms, if I go, so in leadership terms, it reframes the stakeholder engagement. So relationships are not external now. If we implement this one, it's external. So relationship is not external variables to manage, but intrinsic dimensions of shared organizational reality. Next, the concept of the district Parampara is called Swatantra also, and I'm just touching upon very briefly here. So for Swatantra, the freedom as creative manifestation. So how this concept of Swatantra, the creative freedom, has practical implications on leadership areas. Because freedom in leadership is not impulsive autonomy, but the capacity to respond creativity while remaining aligned with the larger goal of our organization and its mission. So, little bit more. Thing here, the Pratyabhijñā, we call our Parampara Pratyabhijñā Shastra also. By our Gurudev, from Guru Parampara, Gurudev wrote a book, is the Pratyabhijñā. So the Pratyabhijñā, the doctrine of recognition, that can translate it into the linguistic language and expanded identity. So when leaders move beyond ego-driven identity, the ego-driven identity means the title, the roles, the status, and they begin to act from a broader sense of shared responsibility. Then the true leadership will come. So the physical implication of recognition, the Pratyabhijñā is, when identity expands, compassion becomes structurally embedded in the decision-making process, and the stakeholders are now no longer abstract groups, but part of an interconnected ecosystem. And the physical concerns becomes a national orientation rather than an imposed obligation. That's the beauty if we implement this one to the latest days. Now I'm taking you to the karmas, how karma is coming up. On the ground of the Kashi, where Mahadevi is there, karma avatar. So karma, the karma compassion as ontological expression in leadership theory. This has implications for cultures. And if leaders model participatory awareness, organizations shift from control-based environment to trust-based system, so that compassion becomes operational rather than ritually, rather than imposed thing. And if I not talk about the skandha, then it's not good for me to tell you about the Trika. So that's because the whole of the is there in our parampara. So skandha is the manifestation of consciousness and throat. So the doctrine of skandha, the dynamic responsiveness aligned strongly with the adaptive leadership model. So it emphasizes attunement to the subtle shift in context. Leaders grounded in awareness are less reactive and more strategically responsive. So there is no reaction, only responses coming in. One little bit technical thing from our parampara here, that's the madhya, we practice madhya, the center of awareness. So, how the leadership theory will be implement that one. So what kind of class will come through the principle imposition. So the concept of madhya, the powers between the stimulus and the response is highly practical here. So in high-tech environment where I operate my projects, very complex environment, the ability to pause, effective response deliberately is a differentiator of the natural leadership. Now I'm going to start dialogue with the leadership systems. So first dialogue with the servant leadership. Servant leadership does emphasize serving first from the non-dual perspective. If I see that serving is not self-sacrifice but alignment with the shared purpose. So the ability becomes facilitating rather than dominating. Now, the mindful leadership. So mindful leadership, we know, does focus on the presence and emotional regulation. And here the presence is framed not a productivity tool as a structured capacity to bend clarity and volatility. Now, dialogue with the ethical stewardship. So ethical stewardship becomes especially relevant and sustainability conversation. If leaders see the organization as embedded in a large system, like a social, ecological, and human, the short-term gains cannot override the long-term coherence. Now I'm giving solution. I'm proposing from here the solution. The solution is the fourfold model for the non-dual leadership. The non-dual leadership, the fourfold model for the leadership application includes the first one, ontological awareness. Expand awareness beyond ego identity. The second one, effective compassion. So compassion embedded in a stakeholder thinking. The third one is dynamic responsiveness, that is dynamic, context sensitive, and responsive. And the fourth one is collective well-being. So that is our proposal. Now, the next one, attributes of this fourfold leadership, very quickly, time is running out of time now. Very quickly I'm just going. So, ethical first attribute will come of ethical action. Ethical action, expression versus obligation. So this reframes ethics from the compliance to coherence rather than asking. I'm not going to ask now what I am allowed to do. The question becomes, if you practice this leadership model, what actually aligns with the long-term health of the whole system. So second, this ontological unity and emotional intelligence. So now this attribute will come up like emotional intelligence in this model is not suppression of the emotion, but the ability to observe and regulate responses without being driven by this, and this increase the stability under the stress, so stress management team. And this was the navigating complex without fragmentation. So complexity no longer produces fragmentation. If you practice this model, what I am proposing, and the leaders can hold competing perspective without collapsing into differences. Because the identity is not tied to a single position. And now I'm finishing. So the most important attribute is towards human governance. Human governance. So this is not a soft leadership. I'm not talking here the soft leadership style. I'm talking about the human governance. It is a discipline, aware, and system-oriented leadership that balance performance and with purpose. Now I'm concluding. In conclusion, Trika Śaivism, our parampara, offers a framework for leadership that integrates awareness, responsibility, and adaptability. For management context, the key takeaway is sustainable ethical leadership emerges from expanded identity and discipline. Discipline begins not from policy alone. So that's it from my side. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Kumar. It's very interesting topic. Very related to Kashmir.
Yeah, no, I'm initially to Kashmir Śaivism, but after Kashmir Śaivism.
So what is Trika Śaivism?
Kashmir Śaivism got named Trika Śaivism because there are five models, Shiva, Shakti, and Nara. There is five models. That's why that philosophy is called Trika. And it's a non-dualism. It's not a great bar. So it's not a great bar. It's like a Pratyabhijñā. So the father knows, recognizes himself. He is a Shiva. So Shiva.
But you are also talking about non-dualism.
Yeah, non-dualism. No, here the Advaita Vedanta, here Shankar Vedanta, that's also correct. And our Trika Śaivism, that's also correct. But there is a difference. The theory of Maya. So we believe Maya is real because Shiva is real, but they believe Maya is illusion. There are some other differences also. We believe Shiva is the ultimate consciousness, is dynamic, but they believe Brahma is inert. So there are so many differences. I have a couple of papers on Shaivism also. Yes. Yeah, Skanda, that's Aspandikarika. That's a Sikh Sutri is the most fundamental document. That's a scripture. Leadership theory with the Savarati applies Savarati. Quantification because very less time. So in papers I have detailed, but here in clinical I can do that.
So it's a qualitative kind of differentiation.
Yeah.
Very interesting paper, thank you. I want to share a couple of comments. One is, this is very, because you belong to the group, that's why you're really aware of it. So those who don't belong to the group, then they become it becomes kind of an exclusive practice and not inclusive enough, right? So my suggestion would be maybe have this as a conceptual framework with the foundation, but also have a more secular approach how we can take those ideas and concepts and make it relevant and make it accessible to the people who are not part of the Kashmir Śaivism.
Thank you, ma'am. There are two aspects, philosophical aspect and the ritual aspect, the tantric aspect. So, when you go to the philosophical aspect, Shiva is the absolute consciousness only, and Shakti is like the divine energy. So, I lived in Australia like 8 years, talking to my white friends, and if I'm talking in terms of philosophy, they do not understand what I'm talking about this particular dharma. So, it's a totally secular in that philosophical level. And on the other hand, this parampara is called Rahasyavad also. So it is coming from grace only, from the Guru Sisi parampara. Although I have a YouTube channel, more than 45 people are following me, and what awareness by the blessings and order of my Guru, I'm just doing this more and more class. So that's the awareness. But the real parampara, that is the Rahasyavad, that is coming from grace only.
Thank you. Another part is in Christian faith also there is servant leadership concept, right? So if you are taking the faith-based approach, we are taking the Christian faith. That's what I was saying. So if you can just put the main core concept and why it is important, which you have very clearly and beautifully articulated, I think that would be the best guide for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Just adding to this comment, you can make the differentiation very clear. Like one is a one is Lata, there is some type of
Trika, yeah. Because from the Trika angle, we have seen the world and the three levels. So there are three realities. But it's a non-dual. At the same time, it's a non-dual. Yeah, it's non-dual. That's the evolution, that's the development. So from the dual, from the mono-dual, again it is going to the non-dual. So here again, it is again. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Trika Śaivism, which we talked about from Kashmir Śaivism and how it can help on the servant leadership or ethical leadership and how we can take the wisdom of Kashmir Śaivism and apply it in our current leadership model.